Ken Zenon here, standing in as your impromptu host for Let's Talk Business podcast. Today we're just going to talk about some business tips from experiences as small business owners. I have two guys with me here today. I have with me one of my good friends and business partners, as well as another chamber member that has a great business. So I'll let these guys introduce themselves and then we'll get started.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Norris Bennett. I'm the CFO of Gopher Delivery Services Incorporated.
Hey everybody, my name's Ted Butler and I'm the owner of Jasora Group. We're a strategic management consulting firm.
And myself, the CEO at Gopher Delivery Services Incorporated. And let's talk business, guys.
Let's go.
So Ted, let's give us the people a little explanation and background story on your business and how you started and how you got into business for yourself.
Yeah, I transitioned into this business as a consultant about 6 months ago. Prior to that, I ran a couple of online businesses that were decently successful, but I was looking to get into the consulting field, which is what I think I'm best at. My background is I've spent over 25 years in different types of industrial sales, strategic planning, global account team leading, industry management, and picked up a lot of skills that I think are beneficial for small businesses. So after 25 years, I decided that I wanted to really get into bringing those skills back to small businesses and give them the benefit of the knowledge I've gained over the years. So my focus is really on strategic pricing, it's on revenue optimization, and it's on business development. And those are areas that a lot of small businesses just don't have a lot of resources to really focus on.
Sounds great. So a little bit about Gopher Delivery Services Incorporated. We started with an app about 5 years ago, and then we transitioned from there into going into transportation and logistics, diversifying the company and growing the company. We started delivering groceries from grocery stores to people's homes, as well as restaurant food. We also did dry cleaning, pickup, and drop off. And then we started after that. After a few years of that, we started doing trucks over the road, getting contracts to do different hauling, as well as recently we've gotten a contract and a partnership with a large distributor in the Austin area. So Norris, if you want to fill in a little more about some of that business stuff.
We partner with Amazon as a company, One Express Transport, out in the Austin area, where we mass deliver Amazon packages to the Amazon customers. Right now, we're currently running 100 routes, which is the equivalent of 100 vans. Right now, we're actually one of the largest companies within the delivery service partnership in nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where we're at right now with that company.
And so it was a matter of starting small, starting with an idea, kind of a blank canvas situation, and then just growing and expanding that to the point to where now we're looking at where we have across our corporate umbrella probably 250 employees or so.
Wow. So it sounds like you guys had a pretty well thought out plan for what you were going to do when you get into business.
We would
or
like
did you
to
guys
say
just
so.
kind of jump
we
in?
would like to say so. I think we kind of jumped in head first, and then but I think that goes into one of the key things you need to have with going into business, and that's just perseverance at the end of the day, and just continuing. You know, we always talk about and hear conversations about people saying that you'll get there if you don't stop or if you just keep going. And I think it was just a matter of us together believing in each other and having a strong faith and belief system to just keep pushing forward no matter what challenges came our way, and trusting each other that we would make the right decisions to move the company forward. And you know, we took on an extra challenge as well by trying to be friends and business partners, which a lot of people advise
That can be a
against.
difficult
Yeah,
thing
it's
to
a difficult
balance, right?
It is a difficult thing to balance because you have to, at some point, you have to separate the two. And you know, some things have to be just business, and some things have to be friendship. So you have to make sure that when you're having conversations about friendship things, that's those conversations, and when it's business, we're talking about business. So, but it was another challenge added to the business in itself.
So we like Ken is saying, we had our ups and downs, but I hate to sound too cliche, but we just kind of banded together and wielded our way through.
Yeah.
And then now we actually see the benefit of the struggles that we had in the beginning. We've actually used that to kind of make a model of our up and coming ventures that we have, so that we're able to learn from the experiences that we or the opportunities, we like to call it, that we had in the past.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you said you talk from the consultant standpoint. You basically turned yourself into a business by being a consultant. I think that's a very I like that method as far as getting into business, like starting with making yourself a business first by doing consulting, taking the skill set that you have acquired in corporate America, and then utilizing it to either help a company perform in an area where they're lacking, or even helping other businesses perform in areas that they're lacking. So what prompted you to go about it that way as far as starting as being a consultant?
Well, I believe that it's important that you get into a business that you truly understand. I think the issue with a lot of consultants is you've got the educational background. So I've got the education piece behind me, but they never get any true, real business expense. So I lived in the trenches, if you will, for 20, 25 years. So when I bring that experience coupled with what I just understand and learn educationally, I think it makes you more credible because you've been there and you've done it. And you can also see around certain corners that some people that just haven't lived through it can't do. So that's, I think, the biggest difference. The other thing you guys said that's pretty interesting, and it's one thing I focus on a lot when I'm talking with clients, is the degree to which you think through what you want to do. And there's an old saying in the construction world. It goes, you measure twice and cut once.
Yes,
right? So if you're putting up a wall and you need a piece of sheetrock to put up, and you measure it once, and then you cut it, and then you find that's about a ½ inch short, and you go, oh my God, so now it's going to cost me more to go back and redo that and recut it. Or you could take the extra time up front, measure it a second or a third time to make sure that you got this thing right, and then when you cut it, it works. So we really emphasize thinking through your business mentally before you start doing stuff in your business, because the fun part is to get it off the ground, get it launched, and you want to start selling stuff, right? And that I call it the thinking work. That thinking work that needs to happen up front doesn't always happen. So we look at a few things that we like people to focus on. So we said we want you to focus on knowing your market. So know what you're selling, know if there's a need for it, know if there's a need for it, and if that need is being served. If that need is not being served, then that gap that gets created is where you can step in and offer your product or your service. You want to know, one of the biggest ones is really knowing your value, is knowing what you bring to the marketplace. We talk with people about what we call the value continuum, right? So it's, and that continuum is kind of it's a progression of your message, of your sales pitch, if you want to call it that. But so it goes from being pretty weak to pretty strong. So you start with, you start on that continuum with the value statement. So this is just a statement about what I do. I'm a consultant. I offer advice on strategic planning and pricing and revenue optimization and business development, and it will help your business. So that's my statement. My next progression in that step is my value proposition. That's where I start tying economic benefit to that statement. So I'm a consultant. I provide these services, and these services will increase your profitability, make you more sustainable, and decrease your cost. And then that third step is what we call that compelling message. And it's called a compelling message because the goal of it is to compel action. And with that, you start tying a lot of hard economic benefits to it. So I'm a consultant, and through our services, you can increase your revenue by 15%, increase your profitability by 10%, decrease costs by 15%. We'll do that within a year, and then we guarantee that if we can't do that, then we'll refund a portion of your cost. Mm-hmm. Now, getting to that message requires a lot of work, so there's a whole process of value definition that you have to go through to get there. But once you get to that point where you've got a message that's strong enough, it's more compelling to the person listening to it, and it tends to separate you from other people that are trying to sell the same things you are to the same customers. So that's kind of a long-winded way of getting to those points, but I think that's pretty important.
Oh, that was some great information, though. So how long do you want that message to be that you're trying to, it sounds like the what's in it for me, for the customer that you're pursuing, or the customers that you're pursuing. How long would a business owner or a small business want that message to be? Is that like an elevator pitch, or is that more like a...
It's an elevator pitch, but an elevator pitch can be a value statement, a value proposition, or a compelling message. It's just the purpose of the elevator pitch is to get it out in 1 or 2 minutes, so you can have an impact on the person listening. Ideally, you want that person pitching, that elevator pitch, to be a compelling message pitch. But in terms of how long it needs to be, it's no more than 3 or 4 sentences. Okay. So if I'm offering a services, I can impact your cost. Now, once you know an industry, like you guys do stuff for Amazon, once you start understanding, the industry that you're in, then you can start tying it to their KPIs, their key productivity indicators. So then it becomes, my service will impact this key productivity indicator in this way, and we'll do it over this time frame with this guarantee. And that's no more than 3 or 4 sentences. And then you'll get people saying, well, can you, how do you know you can do that? Well, we've done the research, we know what industries typically spend in these areas. So we know that we're in the ballpark when we give you these numbers. So the statement sounds simplistic, but there's a lot of just thinking work that kind of gets you there.
Exactly. I heard you mention the marketing piece of it, and knowing your customer, knowing your audience. One thing I realize is always challenging as I talk to people that are in the startup phase of their businesses. We kind of, like you said, in the beginning, everybody's happy about getting it started up. That's what do they call it, the honeymoon phase of the business. Right. But usually a lot of people that I have conversations with about their startups, and you ask them who's their target audience, and they'll say, oh, everybody can benefit from this. Exactly. And so I think that creates the difficulty in the beginning, as far as really keying in on who you should be talking to and who your message should be trying to reach, so that way you can refine that message to the point to where it hits that target audience every time. How do you go through that process of identifying and working through and navigating to make sure that you have a target message, a message that speaks to your target audience in that way?
I think it starts with, and a lot of what we do starts with value definition. Right. So you talk with most people or most business owners, they'll say, I know what value I bring. But when you start saying, can you communicate that value back to me in quantified or quantitative terms, where you can impact dollars and cents, then it gets phased, a little hazy. So once you know what your value is, then you can start identifying which market niches that value best fit. The ideal thing is to find a niche where what they need and what they have, there's a gap between the two. If you can slide into that gap, I mean, that's the sweet spot, right? That's what you want to get. Exactly. So you want to get to that spot. But once you've identified that sweet spot, that market niche, then what we say is you want to create, some people call it a customer avatar. Some people call it the ideal customer definition. Yeah. But it's basically creating a straw customer, an imaginary customer that encompasses all the stuff you want and what you want your best customers to look like. And then there are 2 things you want to define it based on. So you want to define it demographically. So demographics tells you who they are. Yeah. So this is a African-American female, she's 44 years old, she's got 2 kids, she's married, she has a house, her income is XYZ. So I know who she is. Then I want to look at psychographics, and that tells you what they do. So I know who she is, but now I know she is a member of the PTA. She goes to tennis lessons, once a week. She has this book club she likes. So once I know who she is and what she does, now that becomes my customer avatar or my ideal customer. So everything I do from that standpoint on, from a messaging standpoint, from a marketing planning standpoint, I'm speaking to that person because I know that person represents the marketplace that I'm selling to. Now you're gonna have customers that come on board that don't fit that, and that's all gravy. So you can always add additional customer avatars. But when you're starting out, you wanna know who you're talking to, because the most expensive resource that every small business has is time. So if you can do the proper definition up front, it just saves you from wasting a lot of time chasing ghosts. Right?
Yeah, it does.
And I think that everything that you're saying actually gears towards pretty much every business. So if any business that you're a small business owner or any entity, they would want to use that same approach, because the things that you're saying, we actually encountered those using those same matrices for Gopher, as well as our partnership with Amazon. So actually, you're hitting it right on the head. What you think, Ken?
I think that's absolutely correct. I mean, you were asking us earlier, how was our planning in the beginning? And I think over time, our planning has gotten better. I think we were just very eager, maybe a tad bit impulsive to get into business on our own. And I think over time, as we always tell each other, it works itself out. But if you could go back and do some of those things a certain way, or maybe the way they're designed to be done, or the way that we've learned that they should be done in the beginning, and then you save yourself a lot of time, you save yourself a lot of headache. But that would be a perfect world situation. I think a lot of those headaches and those painful moments gave us the same valuable lessons. But I can remember in the beginning, and you trying to understand who you're actually targeting. You're just trying different messages, different marketing material. Your branding isn't consistent, and then you start learning business as you go. As you become a business owner, you start learning business as you go and as you grow, and then you start getting around other business owners and other people that have great knowledge that they're willing to share about business, and then you start implementing those things that you learn through whatever means of conversations or relationships that you build as you're growing your business. And once you start implementing those things, you start seeing those things work, and you start seeing the difference of the business from those things working, and you start seeing why the things you were doing before wasn't working, and it all starts making sense. So I think that's been a great part of the journey, is to be able to see and then not have that short-term memory to where you quickly forget where you once were. So that's why I always kind of laugh at myself when I hear different small business owners get ready to start, and I always ask the same question, like, okay, so who's going to be your target audience, or who you're going to be speaking to, who you're going to be marketing to? And an excited person starting a new business, oh, this is perfect for everyone. And well, that's not always the case, but I have to laugh at myself, because I remember when we started, that's kind of how we were. We started a delivery service, and we would honestly just say that, man, nobody wants to go get this. Everybody's going to use this. And I realized as we grew in the business, I wasn't even my company's ideal customer. As we start seeing the trends of the type of customers that we had, the type of people and their habits on our platform, I realized that I wouldn't even order from my own platform that much. So I'm not even my ideal customer, but that helps me understand those things that you're speaking about, as far as identifying that and how important it is to identify that, so you can communicate with their people. Because at first you only look at kind of yourself and what you think about it and how you think it should be. But in business and trying to grow the business to where you want it to be, you really got to remove yourself from it and truly understand who's the person that you're targeting for that business. So I think all that is definitely great. And business owners, small business owners, they can benefit from someone like you who's willing to take that niche and add another layer of a niche to it by providing that to small business owners and business owners like ourselves.
Yeah, and again, I think that key is thinking it through. But you touched on something that's interesting and that's actually true. is in the early stages of almost any business, hard work will overcome a lot of lack of planning.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you tend to get better at planning as you go because you learn more. Even when we do plans at the initial stages, we always say these plans are living documents because it's impossible to know everything.
Yes,
so you
yes.
want them roughly right. You don't want perfection because as you get into it and you start actually executing against your plan, you'll just start learning stuff that you didn't know. I owned a trucking company for 4 years.
Right.
And the stuff I didn't know going into that business would scare the crap out of me now because I wouldn't go into it. And so I'm into it and I'm trying to run it and I'm learning all this stuff I didn't know. So I didn't take my own advice back then. I didn't do enough due diligence up front. But hard work will overcome a lot of that stuff. But what hard work can cover up is if you want to scale. You want to start getting bigger. You want to start planning where you go next. That's where a lot of this thinking it through comes in, and having that plan in place is critically important. And I always say that you want to start that plan with a SWOT analysis. So that's your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And a lot of people have heard the term SWOT analysis, but don't always apply it in the right way. So when you talk about, and this has to do with knowing yourself and knowing your business. So my strengths and my weaknesses are things that are internal to my business. What things am I good at? And those are things I know I want to leverage. What things am I not good at? Those are things I need to support. So that's inside of my business. The opportunities and threats are things that are external to your business, right? So we know that the Texas legislature is about to award contracts for new construction in Houston. Well, that's opportunity created from outside the business, but we want to know that so we can plan for that. And then threats, it might be something like they're passing a new law or the economy every 8 to 10 years, we know the economy goes through a recession. So that's a threat to my business. And the threat is anything that can prevent you from hitting your business goals. So you're setting your goals at the onset of planning. And anything that threatens that, you want to be able to identify that. And then in your planning process, how am I going to address those things? So as I start putting my business plan together and my marketing plan together, I want to say, what do I need to execute on to leverage my strengths, to support my weaknesses, to pursue the right opportunities, because you got to prioritize and you can't chase everything. And how do I protect myself against the threats that are out there?
So that sounds good as far as pretty much front end preparation. That's kind of the key, I would think, to having a business becoming successful. As we've said multiple times, that everybody just kind of wants to jump in, but that front end preparation that you really put in, I mean, time, sweat. One of our other business partners, Alphonse, he always talks about sweat equity. Well, that comes into play in that front end preparation. So that's real key.
Yeah, I think hard work is definitely a key. And you touched on one other thing that I thought was interesting. It's the mindset that you bring to your business.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So there's a concept in sales that's called 1/X, and what the X is the unknown. If you know math, it's the unknown. And what X is can be different from business to business, from market niche to market niche, and it can be different from person to person. And what that X means, the X identifies how many no's you have to go through to get to the yes. Right. So if I'm a sales guy and I'm selling insurance, which I did for about 4 years, then I know my 1/X was something like a 1 out of 30. So I knew that I had to speak to 29 people on average, 29 people to get to that one yes. Right. So, but what that does is it creates a mindset that says small failures are okay. A lot of people start not having success right away. It gets hard. I mean, businesses are fun to think about, but you can have up and down times. So you want to have a mindset that says every setback I have or small failure I have is actually getting me closer to the yes, and that keeps you moving forward.
And I think we all benefit from the setbacks, and if we look at them with the right mindset, like you said, having the right mindset in a business is extremely important, because that perspective is what either keeps us going or makes us stop pursuing what we're actually setting out to pursue. But guys, I think this has been a great conversation. I know that there's a lot of small business owners out there that could actually gain a lot from the things that you have from the consulting side, Ted. So is there an email address you want to share with anyone so they can get in touch with you in case they want to utilize your skill sets from a consulting standpoint to try to grow their business, their small business? Is there a way they can get in touch with you?
Sure. You can hit our website at Jasore Group. Jasore is spelled Jasore group.com. And my email is ted.butler@jasoregroup.com.
Norris, email address for the people to contact you if they're looking for some advice or if they're looking for any way to help you or any a job or whatever the case may be.
Yes, if you want to reach out to me, it's norris.bennett@wegopher.com, and that's NORRIS.Bennett, BENNETT, at wegopher, WEGOFER.com.
And I can be reached at ken.zenon@wegopher.com. That's ZENON @wegopher.com. All right, we'll go on break, guys. Thanks.
Are you a small business owner, or are you planning to start a business? If so, you should be doing business Texas style. If not, you should be attending the annual Regional Small Business Forum, Doing Business Texas Style, at the MCM Elegante Hotel in Beaumont, Texas. You'll learn that Texas is open for business. You'll learn business opportunities in Texas, how to market your business in Texas, how to access financing programs in Texas, and mentor prodigy programs in Texas. Seating is limited. The Regional Small Business Forum is hosted by Tri-County Regional Black Chamber of Commerce. Our mission is to acquire and disseminate valuable business information, resources, and tools from member firms to achieve entrepreneurial parity and economic prosperity in the region and internationally. If you're in business, you should be doing business Texas style.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk Business podcast. I have with me right now another special guest. Welcome, Ronnie. How you doing today?
I'm hungry, actually.
Hungry, yeah.
You know, just came in because we're headquartered out in Killeen, Texas. So we came in last night and woke up and came out here. I ain't even eat yet. You know, last little Bucky's, the caramel pecans. Yeah, I murdered some of that this morning. That's about it.
You got enough of those?
Man, I'm gonna get some more on the way back.
Okay. So you were saying two hats that you're wearing. So what's
Yes,
the first hat? Let's talk a little bit about that business, and then I know we got something very important for the people of the Central Texas area or Killeen area to talk about on that second hat.
The first hat, of course, is Texas Black Pages. It is a statewide business directory. It's a pretty intricate B2B2C platform that's business to business and business to consumer platform. In 2016, we had 87 businesses that was registered, and year to date, we have over 9,000 businesses that's registered right now. And it's just building relationships, you know, with that platform. And of course, with the Innovation Black Chamber of Commerce, there were several names that was thrown out there as far as what is going to, you know, what are we going to call it and things of that nature. And, you know, pretty much it was God given, you know, as far as the name with the Innovation Black Chamber of Commerce, because we have to do something new. We can't continue to point the finger and say what's been done and what's not been done if we're not being innovative in that process. And that's where the name came from, you know, breaking the stereotypes and the stigmas of what a chamber does and what a chamber should do, but just being innovative in our approach and authentic at the same time.
Okay, yeah. So you said the word innovation. What prompted you to include innovation in the name of that chamber?
The name is really, you know, I do a lot of technology stuff, and I think especially in the tech world, there is a lot of unfairness that happens, a misrepresentation, underrepresentation, anything that means under, you know, our face is there, our culture is there, whether it's fair funding from the VC perspective, or our black tech companies are not raising the same or similar amount of capital to where we're being funded at, whether it's A, B, or C, we're not receiving the same money. And also when you're talking about hiring, employment-wise, and even transitioning, getting more people into podcasts, getting more chambers into podcasts, getting more businesses into podcasts, allowing the transition to go into that digital space. Because if you're not transitioning into, because of course it went from your analog to your digital, and people have yet to say, you know what, I want to get into podcasting. So those who are in the podcast world, that's some of the ad revenue that they're going to receive, because we're building and developing relationships. Like, this is my actually 4th time up here at GMT Radio. I came with 2 other radio personalities, shouts out to Mr. Floyd. But coming here, again, if there's someone that's looking for to be on the radio, just having a relationship, we're going to push them over there. And I think that's how we're going to grow, especially at innovation, by pushing that tech space.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right in that regard. Just hearing your passion. I remember hearing you speak once before in Beaumont at
Man, that's a long
yeah,
ride.
yeah. It was you were talking about your B2B, B2C platform and the digital marketing that businesses could leverage your business in doing their marketing. And one thing I noticed, and I still notice about you when you speak with a lot of passion. Like you say, you said earlier, you love tech.
Yeah.
And so no, I think that's really big that you're implementing that into a chamber, because I do understand coming from someone who's also passionate about tech, and that being the first business endeavor that my business partners and I pursued was in the tech industry.
Yes, sir.
And we quickly found out how underrepresented we are in there, and that's why we started from what you would call a blank canvas, because there was no, at the time with what we were doing when we started it, there was no blueprint out there to figure out. Like in most businesses, you can kind of go and look at a format, or you can go and understand and study the regulations and the different things that would allow that business to be successful or not be successful, and then kind of tweak it to formulate your own niche. But with that blank canvas, and no one else had done what we were attempting to do,
Yes.
It made it really challenging. But what it also did was allowed us to tap into our own ingenuity and just keep pushing forward and just continuing to figure it out. But like you said, there's those challenges when you're creating startups, especially in the tech world. That there's just things that you have to have, or that you have to know how to pursue, and different means you have to know how to navigate as far as with the VC side and different things like that. So
Right.
to bring that to a chamber, I think is highly important.
Yes,
so
sir.
I commend you for that mindset and that approach with your new chamber.
Now, with me, the way I look at it, and I want to get other people to look at it as well, let's begin to fall in love with the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you fall in love with the problem, then it's just as important for you to find a solution. Because, like, if there's something that you love, like, it's like you're standing in front of the microwave and you know the food is coming out. The problem is you're hungry. So you're in front of the microwave, like, you humming and doing all types of crazy dancing, because you know, I fell so in love with the problem that I made something, and I'm waiting for it to be finished, and falling in love with the stereotype of the customer service with black businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm in love with the problem now. Let me go and try to find out, do I need to create these manuals for businesses, or speaking with Ms. Leandra, we was talking about going back into the documentation. A lot of businesses and black businesses don't have that documentation. When you fall in love with the problem of documentation, then you're going to create access for those to be documented. You know, we can't say, where's your paperwork, if you never taught them that paperwork is necessary. And it was kind of like she was also saying earlier today, you know, when you teach someone wrong, it's hard to come back and to try to involve and incorporate what's right, because they're going to say, well, I learned this from you. So which one is it? Is it this way or is it that way? And just falling in love with the problem that we want to find solutions to fix it better, not just for our industries, but for our culture as well.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. So you said the customer service in black businesses.
Yeah.
Why is that always a topic that's brought up when we talk about our black businesses? We always, every time we have conversations about black businesses, supporting black businesses, or we need more black businesses, there's always that conversation that comes up that goes into, man, the customer service or the service that you get is just not this, or we complain about it and things like that. What do you think that issue is, or why do we have so much of that?
It's the post-traumatic slave syndrome, to where you may already have pre-existing issues before you even came to my establishment. So now what happens is we're already combative. Mm-hmm. If you had a bad day and I don't read body language, then we may already we may clash. And I was having this conversation with one of the businesses in Killeen, which is called Butler's, and I was speaking with the owner, Mr. Anthony Butler, and I was like, if you come into my establishment already hot and heated, so if I already know you and I understand your body language, then I'm going to communicate like, oh man, you all right? You know what I'm saying? You look a little off today. So that customer service is more so is the relationship, as opposed to they don't know how to speak to me. No, you probably didn't know how to speak to them. Because in our transition and how we operate now, it's not the customer is always right anymore. That's like Old Testament. It's the relationship that needs to be fixed before I'm able to communicate with you. Learning and understanding how to communicate would allow the customer service stigma to be different. Because if we go back into our communities and teach conflict resolution, then we know how to resolve issues before they even arise. It's like having a conversation and saying, I have a concern, as opposed to saying, I have a complaint. We're saying the same thing, but one tends to allow us to want to listen. And we have to understand that. Speak to me from a concern standpoint and not from a complaint. And I think we'll be able to change some of the conflict with the so-called customer service. We have to voice our concerns and not complaints.
Okay, so you're saying you think the consumer also has a responsibility in that relationship as well?
Exactly.
Okay. I've never necessarily heard it from that perspective, but it's interesting to think about the consumer also playing a responsibility in the, I guess, the perpetuated stereotype of black businesses or small businesses lacking that customer service. So I think that's a different perspective of it. I was just curious to see what you thought about that, because I think sometimes we already have the preconceived notion when we know that the business is black or it's a small business, and we kind of go into it almost with the expectation that things aren't going to go the way they're supposed to go.
Because you have to work twice as hard.
Right.
If they're already going to come in and say, you're a black business, man, let me go see if this one's cool. You didn't give me a chance.
Yeah.
Before you got out of your car, you might have already had the thought of, man, it's black business, man. I hope John ain't working today. Man, John probably had a bad day too. Change the language, and then we can have a better way to communicate.
And so in thinking about that, is it, I mean, because I guess just the pride of being able to say you own your own business or you own a successful black business, we promote that almost in our business, that it is a black business, but would not necessarily, I guess, necessarily branding ourselves as a black business, just being a business, would that take away some of those preconceived notions for the consumer when they come to the business? Because I don't think that when a consumer goes to any other business that it may just be just as bad a service. It may be an even worse experience at another business, but they don't have it to pinpoint it to that one thing. So what do you think about that as far as how we brand ourselves and
I think it's pride.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's pride in self, pride in culture, pride in our generation. To say I have a business and I own a business, and we're going to label it as a black business because we want people to know that we're just as capable
right.
of owning a business like our counterparts are. But could it hurt you from a branding perspective? Yes, because you never know what other businesses that are out there that do not like you. So it's going to increase it could possibly increase the chances of someone not patronizing your business because you're calling it a black business. But for me, I don't even worry about that.
Right.
You know, I can't worry about that because I have to worry about, am I doing good business?
Right. Period. That's it.
Am I doing good business? Is the business that I'm doing reaching that customer base that I am marketing to, and that I have a very high retention rate? And I think if we just look at it from that perspective, yes, I can say black business to you because it's like the code, you know, code switching. It's like the code because I want you to be proud of me. You know, I want to be proud of you just like I want other black business to be proud of each other because we're doing it.
Definitely. And I asked the question, I posed the question because you hit it right on the head. Actually, you said the fact that we have to make sure and ensure that we're doing good business. It doesn't matter what you call the business.
Right.
At the end of the day, I think the biggest thing for the business owner is to do the self-reflecting and the self-evaluation sometimes, regardless of how outrageous that consumers' complaint or their concern may be, because sometimes they are a bit outrageous, right?
Right.
We still have to take that moment to kind of self-reflect and self-evaluate to ensure that we're actually not lacking in whatever category it is that they're bringing to our attention regarding their concern and their complaint. And I think that's the toughest thing to do because we're so busy trying to figure out how to make that business successful, how to keep that business going, how to keep that business growing, that sometimes when somebody tells us something bad about it, we take it so personal. And I think that's another difficulty in growing a small business is that in the beginning, you're so attached to it that it's so difficult to separate self from business. And those things are two totally different things. You and your business is two totally different things. Your business is its own entity and you're your own individual. So even if the business is struggling or the business had a bad day, the business had a bad day. It doesn't necessarily mean Ronnie had a bad day, right?
Yeah, and I think what we have to do as a culture is to understand exactly what you just said. Because you're still human.
Yeah.
You're still a person. Because I had a bad day at home, you as the individual should not transition that into your workplace or your place of business. You should have, if you need to drive around leave home a whole hour early to drive around the block, defuse, the same way as you may have to do when you leave that place of business to go and drive around the block and defuse before you get home, we have to understand that there has to be a balance in that. And without having the psychology of an entrepreneur, that's like a whole nother workshop right there. The psychology of an entrepreneur, because the psychology of an entrepreneur wears so many hats. And in the hats that you wear, you may have a Scully on one day. You may have a fitted cap on one day. You may have a snapback on one day. You may have a bonnet, whatever it is. Right. You're going to fit all those hats, but you have to understand when to pull them out, when to wear them, when to address them. If you want to wear a bright yellow hat one day, understand when I'm wearing this hat, I feel this way. I feel these particular moves. The mental capacity has something to do with your business. Mental health is a problem in our community, and it is still the same problem within our business and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I totally agree. All those things kind of work together in creating the business, growing the business, allowing the business to be successful, and working in that business, working on that business. it's a lot of things underneath the surface that
So
contribute to probably some of the issues that arise in our businesses, and us being able to make them successful and take them to that next level. And I think a lot of it is also just continuing the education as far as, like you said, the psychology of an entrepreneur. What is that psychology, and understanding the mindset and the capacity that you have to have in order to truly be an entrepreneur and weather the storms of being an entrepreneur, the ups and the downs that comes with having your own business and not being able to sit in the office at a desk and know that the check is going to be there, whether you get any work done or you get a ton of work done. In entrepreneurship, you have to go get it, and if you don't go get it, there's nothing coming in. So, and that's that safety net that once you remove it, it kind of levels you to another mindset and gives you another level of assertiveness to actually go out there and make sure that if you have to make that business successful, whatever it takes to do that you're doing that day in and day out, and it takes another level of dedication to do that. So that psychology of that entrepreneur, that's just something that just hit me when you said that, because I know it's a mindset
that's
that it
gonna
really
be a workshop.
Yeah.
Hey, we're telling you now. If you see anybody out there that's posting, and I'm gonna tell you too, anybody that's posting talking about we're gonna have a psychology of entrepreneurship, you know where it came from.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's going to be necessary. And I'm even looking at it like you're creating like a entrepreneur town hall, going to different cities, having it as a panel discussion, because we have to break that down. And I think if we do not break that down within our communities, then our next level of business owners is going to fall in the same holes that we fell in. Because again, when you even hear the psychology of an entrepreneur, we're not breaking it up by industry. It's no matter what you do, it's the psychology of you that's going to make you and your business go to the next level.
Yeah, and I think that you talking about those town halls and going from town to town. I think the key is, one thing my business partner and I, in one of our operations, we have about 200 employees. So we're constantly bringing in new people, and we always emphasize a team culture in our organization. And to bring in so many people so quickly at times, you can have a lapse and gaps in training and in your skill set. But we preach that team culture, and we emphasize shortening the learning curve for the next guy. So the guy that just came in today, somebody be a leader on side of him that's been here and shorten that learning curve for him. So I think that's important for us as a people to have these conversations, do things like these podcasts, and do it in different areas and have people come in from different areas, because I think the experiences, what we'll realize is the experiences, no matter where you are geographically, are usually the same as with being an entrepreneur. So we have more of these conversations. We should naturally shorten that learning curve for a lot of people that's going into business. And I think sometimes, well, we know the old saying, what is it? Game is to be sold and not told. I think we gotta, kind of remove that and start telling the war. Telling the game. Start telling the war stories of what it's like to be in business, because a lot of people see the end result of things and they think that, if I just do this, then I'll be successful in this or in that. And they don't get a lot of the back end and hear the struggles and the nights you were up and didn't know what you were going to do, how you were going to make payroll and different things like that.
Meals.
The missed meals, and so I think the more we start having these conversations and telling the complete background of what it takes to go from, as Miss Leandra from the Tri-County Black Chamber of Commerce would say, her goal is to provide us with the resources that takes that business from surviving to thriving to flourishing. And she's done a great job at that for a lot of businesses that I know. And when you get to that point to where you're flourishing, you're at that point to where your business is basically able to operate itself without you having to be physically there as having another job in your business. And you can spend time and spend the resources that you've accumulated to actually focus on the business of the business and growing that business into something that provides opportunities for other people.
Right. So I'm definitely appreciative of of Tri-County Regional Black Chamber of Commerce ever since the development of the relationship. Just driving down here, because I live 3 hours away, well, 3 hours and 8 minutes to be exact, and coming down here based off of the relationship, again, that's important. You know, if your chamber don't have relationships outside of their area, then how much reach do you really have? And especially with the Innovation Black Chamber of Commerce as being an affiliate with that, like I was speaking earlier today, we will be the only Black Chamber of Commerce that's co-located with Fort Hood, which is the largest Army installation in the free world. So having access to Fort Hood, she doesn't have to drive 3 hours anymore. Well, period. Because I'll just pretty much shoot an email, you know, having the ability to say, you know what, I don't have any member that will be able to, you know, take this RFP, request for proposal, but let me go ahead and send it to Ms. Leandria, because I know she has someone that's going to be able to do it. So now we're thriving as the bridge is being built. So it increases our ability, it enhances our net worth, and it develops the relationship. You know, like for me, the people who really know me, I don't really say network anymore, because we've been networking for so long, wrong for a long time, that we have to begin to elevate our net worth. And when we elevate our net worth, now we have the ability to close generational wealth gaps within our immediate areas. Because if you look at 6 degrees of separation, 2 degrees of separation, it's easier to close that gap. Yeah. Instead of saying, man, we need to close this generational wealth gap. For the whole Black community, it's not going to work. I may be able to close a gap with you by only teaching you proper credit repair, credit restoration. So I'm already closing a gap. If you're starting at a 750, 730 or whatever, and your mama done put your name on everything before you was born, I'm closing that gap. And now you're going to perpetuate and teach the next business owner, say, you know what, I know you want to start a business, let's start working on your credit first. That's what we want to do at a chamber perspective. My goal is to have 100% of the members in Innovation Black Chamber of Commerce with good credit. So now when you're talking about being and ready and to be prepared for funding, so you have no other option as a member of the Innovation Black Chamber of Commerce to have good credit. I can't tell you you're ready for funding if your credit is tore up. You can't say that you want to go do these particular things and you don't understand, you know, what's a paydex. If you don't have your Duns and Bradstreet, you don't have any of this other stuff, we have to be able to do that, because at a corporate level, they're talking that language. But at the low level, we have to talk and understand that language to go from a small business to medium, and go from medium to large. So we have to speak from the corporate perspective, even at the lower level.
Yeah, you talked about the credit thing is major when starting up in a small business. You put so many hurdles in front of yourself if your personal credit isn't right and you're trying to start business, because that's the first thing they're going to look at. And then the next thing after that, you use that personal credit, you leverage it in order to build business credit, which is a whole nother podcast that we can get into and have a long, in-depth conversation about how you translate that personal credit and how to even build that personal credit, and you translate that into your business credit, and then your business is able to get its own credit and be able to support itself once your personal credit takes you there.
Exactly.
But I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with the Innovation Chamber. Looking forward to, like I said, we're in the Austin area. It's great that you have the Innovation Chamber of Commerce, and you're so close to not only Fort Hood, but also Austin. With it becoming, I guess, the Silicon Valley, as one would say, of the South. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of tech opportunities presenting themselves in the Austin area. So, and to have that bridge with you and the Tri-County Black Chamber of Commerce, I just look forward to what the two organizations can do, and wishing you nothing but the best, my brother, in your endeavor. And I look forward to having a meeting with you in the Austin area, Killeen area, and sitting down and seeing what we can do in that area and how we can work together with our organization. So let's keep building those bridges and removing those barriers. Yes, sir. So tell the people how they can get in touch with you regarding the B2B, B2C platform, as well as how they can get involved with the work that your chamber is going to be doing in that area.
With Texas Black Pages, you can go to www.texasblackpages.com. Check the platform out. Make sure you also follow us on all social platforms, Instagram, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those platforms as well. With Innovation Black Chamber of Commerce, if you want to send an email, want more information, email us at the innovationblackchamber@gmail.com. And you can also go on innovationbcc.org and check the website out, which is a pretty dope website. I made it myself. Kudos. And it's different. You know, we have to do something different, and we have to understand that it's going to take, it's a we thing. As long as we know it's a we thing, then we're going to grow, and we have to develop our we, because that is how we become a lot more cohesive.
Most definitely. We can go a lot further as we, right, than we can individually. So I think we should take that mindset and that approach. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today to the Let's Talk Business podcast, where we had an opportunity to talk to a few business owners about some excellent business tips that were given today. So reach out if you have any questions. You have these guys' emails. And make sure you join in next week where the show will be talking about tax tips. So that's highly important in business. The financials are always one of those things that we kind of overlook as long as we see money coming in and going out. You know, so we want to make sure we're handling those taxes right. So next week the show will be about tax tips. So make sure you tune in. Thank you, everyone, for your time.